Nepal has one of the biggest potentials I've seen a country have in a long time. Actually, it is one of the most unique, culturally rich, and genuinely a special place I have experienced. During my 2025 year, I have spent roughly 2 months living in Kathmandu. And while the initial idea of me traveling in Kathmandu was business related, I've noticed myself staying there for around 2 weeks just because how positively that surrounding affected me. And once that I am back in my office now and I can reflect and all that emotion of living in another country is out of my system, one thing is still stuck on me, and that is that Nepal has one of the biggest potentials that is not yet seen, not yet used, and not built on. And that is exactly why I have created this channel. Hello, my name is Nico and this is Nepal in Focus. As this is my first video, I would like to address certain things. First of all, I'm not a news channel. I'm not also a random commentary, and I'm not trying to come in here and explain what Nepal is or can be to a Nepalese viewer, because you would know, of course, much better than I do. And I'm not an outsider who is also trying to have that arrogant sort of look that knows everything. No, that's not what I'm trying to achieve here. I am here because I respect what's already there. And I would like to contribute the best way that I can, which is to learn, to observe, and to share my perspective and experiences into making things more clear. Because sometimes what's missing is not the effort, but the clarity itself. Clarity on what exists, clarity on what's working, and clarity on what's holding things back. Be it about sports, about business, about politics, or in our case, about the whole country, clarity is essential. And once that becomes clear, people start seeing possibilities differently. And that's the entire idea behind this channel. By clarity, I mean to take real and active topics in Nepal and break them down properly. Not just what is happening, but what it means, why it matters, and what it leads to. And the best way to start this is with something I've seen make a real big difference in other countries: the government's promise plan. In Nepal's case, there were 100 promises given by the new government. Now, I'll be honest, the promises in the politics is not a new thing. And unfortunately, as fast and rapidly they appear, as soon as the ruling party wins over or the promise serves its purpose, it just disappears. But this promises and this new initiative especially stuck out to me, and I'll explain why. Because what I saw here is not just empty promises, it's an attempt to structure them, track them, and make them visible, and that matters a lot. Because in the countries where the system works better than the other ones, there is always one common factor: accountability. For example, in countries like Estonia, where government systems became highly transparent and trackable, you can actually see progress, decisions, and outcomes clearly. And what happened there? Higher trust, more stability, faster development. And that sort of change in system and in structure didn't happen overnight. It's not like they woke up one day and they were like, oh, from Monday on I'll be on a diet, or I'll go in the gym, or I'll stop smoking. No, that change simply happened because the system became much more clear and much more accountable for their promises and for their actions. And let me just tell you that Estonia, being one of the smallest countries I've visited, be it territorially or with the GDP, simply because of their size, does not undercut it at all. Because even though they do play an underdog role, their actual new structural system allows them to have one of the most systematic growth, be it in economics, being it in financial situation, or whatever it is. And when I see Nepal taking the same sort of step towards the same direction, I genuinely believe it is one of the most important steps they have taken in a long time. This step, if done properly, can be one of the strongest steps towards becoming much more functioning and democratic countries, not just in Asia, but in the whole world. Therefore, I hope you will not get too mad at me when the first series of this channel will be dedicated towards this 100 promises Nepalese government promised their people. The way those series will be formed is the following. I will not come here and simply repeat what those promises are because you've already heard them. You are more familiar with it than I am. And if I do that, that will be waste of my time, but more importantly, that will be waste of your time. In reality, how those series will work is the following. First, I will break down each promise and answer the following questions and much more about them. The questions will be formed such as, what problem is each promise trying to solve? Why was it needed now? What has to happen for it to actually work? And what happens if it doesn't work? Because, like it or not, it's not like a life scenario where sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But whenever it actually comes to the promise, it may actually be about just the destination rather than just the journey. And journey is something a government may use for them to explain why they didn't arrive at that destination. So we'll get to that in a later on. I don't want to delve too much into it. There's also an accountability dashboard tracking those promises made by the government, and it actually shows what promises were given out, which of them are in the process of being completed, which of them have been failed, which of them have been stalled, and etc. And I think this is a very strong signal because once a progress becomes visible, it changes behavior completely. I don't want my first video to get very boring, so I'll cut the long story short and explain the goals pretty easily. The goal here is very simple: to take what exists, to make it much more clear, much more understandable, and much more visible. So you know what to expect, why that matters, and what direction things are really going on. If you care about where Nepal currently is, where it will be in the future, and how can that future be as bright as the daylight, this is the channel that will be focusing on this. And in the next video, I give you the promise that we will start with the 5 promises issued by the government, and we'll discuss them, we'll break them down and evaluate them. See you there.